G'day, fans, and welcome back to another exciting episode where we get to review a bit more Docky Who, Mr. Aaron. How exciting is this? Episode 4, the brains is going completely burko. It's very, very groovy. What do you reckon?
Can you believe it? We're halfway through the series.
What is the deal with that, mate? I just can't. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I pressed the button I shouldn't have pressed. Oh, it's ruined my own joke. Oh, my God. I got a bit too excited there. But the point was, yes, we're here to talk about Docky Who, although this particular episode, you get to hear it again, was more like, and it doesn't even work now. Look at this. We're under so much pressure here. Is more like this. It's the Docky Who zone. Oh my God, Mr. Aaron, what was the deal with this episode? And before we get into it, of course, yes, there will be. This is what we're talking about: 73 yards, or as you would be in Australian term, 67 meters. And of course, there will be spoilers. Okay, we've got all that mess out of the way, dude. What is the deal with the Docky Who zone, mate?
Oh, I think there's a lot to talk about with this one. You can tell it's going to be an interesting discussion tonight because the last 2 days, all I have had is people coming in and wanting to talk about this episode of Doctor Who. So there's a lot to get through.
Yeah, I tell you what, I must admit, when I saw the episode, I said to my other half, I was writing down notes, and I thought, oh my God, we're going to be for hours talking about this. But it's very, very groovy. And as per our usual routine, and good to see Greg's joined us, the old Docky Who, absolutely fantastic. We're going to use the same process as is often the case: the good, the bad, and the ugly. And of course, it'd be very interesting to see what other people think of this particular episode. 73 yards or 67 meters or whatever it was, 65 meters. So very cool, Mr. Aaron. So, of course, as always, we're going to kick off with a bit of the good. And I just realized there's a bit of a mistake on my screen. Just give me a second there, kids. I think that pops up on a few of them. No, that's cool. I'm going to kick off with the good. And I guess there was a fair bit of that. Is that right there, Mr. Aaron?
There was, I think, this episode. There's probably more good than bad, though we try to be balanced. Look, guys here, and we're talking about Cocky Who. I guess that's Dave and Mabel out at Saba.
Jesus. Oh, there we go. Yeah, fantastic.
I've started off with the good, though, with that picture. Now, I've spoken about this to a couple of people, and no one's quite sure. I think this might be the Doctor Who episode in the entire run with the most location changes and different places where it's taking place. So it was a very well shot, beautiful looking episode of Doctor Who. You can definitely see the money on the screen here, not through visual effects, but actually location work. I thought it really covered a lot of different locations and places. So a bit of everything for everyone.
See, I looked at the opposite way. I mean, once they were like wandering around through all the countryside, I go, "Oh, this is the low budget, cheap ass version of the episode." Because typically, when you spend so much money, like Space Babies would have been expensive, maybe Devil's Cord and some of those other ones, and you go, "Okay, at some point they're going to go, all right, we've gone over budget on these other episodes. We need to tone the budget down." So somebody said, "Let's just do some location stuff. No sets to build. Just turn up to existing places." So I actually saw it as the old cheapo version. I mean, it still looked good. I'm not looking at it from that perspective, but in terms of having to physically build anything, they didn't have to build a damn thing. So anyway, it's not a criticism, just an observation.
I could be making this up, but I'm pretty sure location shooting costs more than studio shooting. But I guess it's where they go and what they do.
Yeah, I think in the old days, definitely, but these days, probably not so much. And considering it's within England, I thought this was interesting. They actually the TARDIS lands in England. I go, don't they ever land anywhere else on Earth? It's always England. And I thought that's just the old cheapo way out, right? So it's like, oh, we're in Wales. How exciting is that? And I thought, why don't you end up in like Morocco or freaking Uzbekistan or something? So,
can you imagine the permits they had to get to put that police box on the edge of the cliff?
Nah, just turn up. Who's going to care, mate? Just sit there, stick it in there. For all we know, they might have just done it for a couple of shots and then just digitally added in for the rest of the scene, for the rest of the show. So, yes, very, very good. But yes, it did. I mean, that side, I mean, as I said, it wasn't a criticism. It was just an observation. That didn't necessarily mean it was a bad thing. And if you know your English TV shows, you can usually recognize those clips and go, oh, yeah, I've seen this in all these other shows. But yes, it was good regarding that side of things. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Just shooting the TARDIS on the cliff requires 40 people to hand carry and assemble the overhead crane. Oh, there we go, mate. So
that's the same as getting me upstairs at the shop.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. So anyway, so it worked out well for him, and it was all very, very cool. It was on the cliff, so yes, clearly location shooting was the go. Anyway, we move on. So yes, it did look good, and there's no denying that was a very, very exciting part of the program.
So here's one you'll appreciate, Dags. I'm not sure if you know why I put this up, the spectre of the gun, and we've got Mr. Chekhov there. But I am a person who appreciates the writing style that includes Chekhov's gun. And Chekhov's gun is a writing style where if you show a gun in Act 1, you fire the gun in Act 3. And it's just a way of, I guess, making a logical story that progresses with things not coming out of the blue. You signpost it as it goes along. And this was a really great example of writing with Chekhov's gun, where they talk about stuff and it happens in little things and it happens in big things. And I've watched the episode 3 times, and the more you watch, the more you pick up. And it starts right from the start, where Ruby comes across a person who's hiking on the cliffs, and she's talking about what town it is. And she said, well, it's this Welsh town, and sorry, I can't pronounce the name. You'll have to forgive me for this. And she says, the people in the town won't forgive me, though. And that really sets up the people in the town are very mocking of outsiders. And then that's paid off when they go to the pub. And all through the start of this episode, there were tons of things that come off that are ticked off and paid off through the rest of the episode. So I thought that was a really good indication of a much better script than, say, Space Babies.
Oh shit, wrong button. Guy said that it scared him. Oh yeah, well, it was very, very tense. That's why we said now, a lot of people just joined in late, but it was more of a Twilight Zone episode than a Doctor Who episode. And because the most bizarre thing, it's almost like an episode of the Book of Boba Fett where Boba Fett didn't appear. The Docky himself he's just out of it. It's just a Ruby show. And
Yes.
we're going to bring it up later on. And it's almost like what happened to Shooty? Was he just not available that day? But we'll cross that bridge later on because I know we're going to discuss it. Ads was thought so it sort of dragged a little bit between the TARDIS and the town bit. Yeah, fair enough. And Guy has made an observation: the old lady appears again. And as you mentioned last week, how that lady's now appearing in all these other episodes, and I made as a joke that he's lives next door to Russell T Davies and just hitches a ride to work. Yeah, she had a prominent bit in this particular episode. But the fact that Ruby even recognised her, said, "I've seen you somewhere before." Yeah, that's actually very, very clever. So, yes, there were some elements of this particular episode that were actually very, very clever. And the thought that once the Docky just vanished and Ruby doesn't know where he's gone, what does she do now, and ends up going into the town. Yeah, it was really well done. It was really well thought out. And I agree with you. There was a lot of little bits that were chucked into this that sort of like drip fed all this information that you sort of picked up as you went along. So I guess the key thing, of course, and I guess you're going to bring this up, is who the mysterious woman happens to be. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
It is. It is one of those things as well. I can't particularly remember, maybe not just in Doctor Who, any movie. I'm sure there must be something, or any TV series where part of the antagonist's character is they don't ever come close. And that's built into this story all the way through the episode. So I think the old woman in this has a great introduction where something mysterious happens and then she appears, and then her very appearance becomes mysterious because of the nature of Ruby trying to talk to her and not being able to get close to her. And then, Ruby gives up, so goes away, but sees this woman is still with her. And I guess it gets more and more tense as further into the episode you go. You see that she is not leaving Ruby and staying the same distance away. And you do wonder for Ruby what will happen if she gets closer, or if she can ever shake her. And it turns out, amazingly, she can't. She's there for the rest of her life.
Yeah, the thing we couldn't work out. I mean, once you get to the end of the episode, you look back upon it. Is the lady standing there? And it was really well done, right? I thought I loved it. What I couldn't work out was all the gestures, right? The shrugging and the hand movement. It's like no idea what that is meant to represent, as opposed to just standing there. And now maybe it's there so people can say, "Oh, the character clearly has life and has movement," but I don't think it's ever covered off as to like unless Ruby has a nervous tick that she does when she shrugs her shoulders a lot. I don't know. You've seen it a few times. What do you think?
I think from the last part of the episode where she actually is saying to Ruby, I've been trying to do this for so long. I'm really sorry it's taken so long. I think that's part of trying to communicate, but it just isn't working until the very end of the episode. It is a bit ambiguous, and that's why it's a bit more like a Twilight Zone episode than a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So regarding the TARDIS on the cliff, ads has said it took $10 to put the box on the cliff, but millions of dollars just to install the safety barriers. And when Shane said, "Oh, there's 40 people involved," but you can almost bet like 38 of them were just standing around, just like council workers, while the other two did all the work. So yeah, the whole lady thing was interesting. I mean, I don't know. Did you project as to who she was? Did you sort of figure it out in advance? Because you're pretty clever with a lot of the stuff.
No, I didn't on this one.
Okay, very, very cool. And you've got this image here as well.
Yeah, this is just a bit of a joke, but that has to be the most well manicured place prop tree that's ever appeared in pop culture since the Riddle Nick Kershaw cover. So that's just a little joke there. Or maybe it's Nick Kershaw. He would have white hair by now.
You would think so, eh? And the interesting thing is, you're right. The old lady follows Ruby for decades, and how they show the passing of time is interesting. When you see things says 40 years later, which I know we're going to cover off, and you go, "All right, how do you actually make that convincing?" And of course, that's a whole different discussion. But the key thing is that Ruby is like, I like it. The dockie's gone tatas. The old lady's there, and this other lady walks up to her on the moor, so to speak. And of course, this is a bit that we can't work out. The lady goes up to the lady, the one in the green goes up to the one in the black, and something is said, and the lady in the green runs away, and which becomes a reoccurring theme in the story. But we can't work out what it is that the lady on the left would have said to scare the lady on the right. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, because it was not explained in the episode, I did think that was a bit of a cop out. I guess you have to be smart about it and go, well, she would have to said something either majorly important if it's the same thing to everyone where they have the same reaction, or she would have to say something personalized to everyone for it to have the same impact on everyone. I just thought it was a really interesting idea and really creepy. Since the episode has been shown, Russell T Davies has come out and said she did say something specific, and I'm never ever going to reveal it, which to me is a cop out in that I couldn't really work something out. For me, I imagine that there's a movie, Stephen King, I think it's Stephen King, Mouth of Madness. Whenever you read this book or see it, you just go mad. And I kind of think it's the same thing. It's maybe not a specific thing she's saying. It's maybe like almost like a virus or a bug or something that just sends people insane at that point. And because we're in a universe of Doctor Who, it's been reinforced magic is real. Maybe it's more like a spell thing happening to do with the fairy circle than actual information that's being passed on. But we'll never know. That'll only ever be speculation.
Yeah, for sure. I like what Guy says here. Whispers from the dark, story untold yet to come. So I thought the same thing. I thought once the people ran off, see, the lady ran off in the green jacket, the guy in the town runs away, and they said, I thought they're going to go complete Looney Tunes, like complete lunatic stuff. But as we see from the Prime Minister later on, he doesn't. He runs away screaming, but he's still compos mentis effectively when he resigns his post. So I thought whatever happens to them is temporary, but it's enough to change them, but not enough to turn them completely Scooby-Doo. So I thought that was interesting. So
Well, it does.
Shane has
It
said
does say
she's the devil, would freak everybody out. But yeah, as we know now, it wasn't the devil at all. So yeah, sorry, dude.
uh, I think it does last forever because Ruby never got to speak to her mum ever again after whatever was said. She said she never spoke to her mum ever again after that point. So it is a permanent thing, but it's just personally to do with Ruby, I think.
Yeah, no, sorry, I meant that the person on the receiving end of the old lady, I mean, whatever happens to them changes them, but they don't go like completely like their brain
Yeah,
fried or anything like that. So that's how I
yeah.
sort of looked at it. You get up in the hotel, which, as you've said here, is a direct rip-off effectively from American Werewolf in London.
Well, if you're gonna rip off something, rip off the best. But I would say, just from the side by side comparison shots I've put there, it was a deliberate thing. I mean, the angle and the tone of the pub sign was pretty much the same. The woman and the way that it was shot with her behind the bar and how the bar looked was the same. And even it's not exactly the same, but even, sort of the number of patrons in the bar and how the
Mm,
camera took pictures took the footage of those scenes, and I thought that whole thing was good. I've put their American funding in Cardiff, but I do think that was a good scene because it was setting up the story. But we're going to talk about a negative to this later in the episode as well. But I did think it set up the story very atmospherically, and it set up a whole lot of different things that could happen. And I think it did it really well. I don't think anyone would complain about that scene being boring or unatmospheric or detrimental to the episode.
I thought what really worked is when you got the banging on the door and they go to Ruby, answer the door, and you got these real intense close-ups of everybody, and it's just some dude delivering something. It's just a complete shit stir. I thought that was really well played because, as you said, it's the freaky town of freaky people. What's the deal with that, right? You know, and remember, she's saying she's trying to pay with her phone, and they're playing dumb as if they can't accept that. That was really well done. It's like that was a nice little twist. And even Lynn, my other half, was watching us. Oh my God, what's going to happen? And everybody's on the edge of their seat, and it was just a joke, and they end up laughing. So it's the end of taking the Mickey out of the tourist. That was actually very, very clever, I thought. So as I said, that there've been fairies before in the Doctor Who universes. So regarding the old lady, and yeah, she should have stayed on the path. Aaron and I actually discussed this yesterday, and it wouldn't be funny if Ruby ends up going across the grass. Don't do that because it never ends well. But yes, it was very, very cool. Yes, so I've got to say it was actually quite a good sequence, and it worked very, very well. And you are right, it had a lot of American Werewolf in London all about it. You've picked out, this is also listed as a whole lot of Ruby running shots.
Well, we won't dwell on this, but I do have to say I did list this in the good. Ruby should run in a jumper a whole lot more in episodes, and it's one of those things I probably had to watch about 10 times just to make sure my perception filter was looking at it correctly.
I thought she was dressed as like wearing the same jumper as Thelma from Scooby-Doo. It's the orange thing with the turtleneck thing, and I picked up on that and go, oh, she's channeling her in a Thelma. So I thought that was very, very cool.
I did think Ruby and the Doctor were dressing similarly,
Yeah.
both in orange in this one, which for me we'll talk about later because I think it's a bit of a negative because I think that's shows it's been dressed by a costume designer rather than people dressing naturally. But we're in the good section. Ruby running around, good.
So the old lady's sticking with Ruby for decades. And it is interesting how they sort of show the passing of time regarding Ruby. And I like the fact that her hair was in different lengths. Clearly, you can tell she hasn't really aged, and they probably could have put a bit more effort into that. And they put, as you said, the glasses on her or whatever.
What I thought was more important here, did you notice the older she got, the less cards she got? So by the time she's 40, there's only one card.
No, I didn't pick up on that. Oh, well done. Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is really, really clever, every time she looked out the window, it might be a bit hard to see because they're small, but under the good, that's looking out the window down to the street, and it actually changes every shot. So on the top, there's really nothing, and then on the bottom, there's a zebra crossing. But there's these little things beside there that I couldn't work out, and then I worked out what they were. They've put electric car chargers on the road in front of her 40 years later. So there's little lightning bolts in paint on the street, and then there's little chargers. So I did think that's the extra level of detail that you don't always see, and I thought that was really impressive. So I did think the passage of time was shown really well.
Yeah, that's very, very subtle. Looking at these two pictures, I didn't know about the car chargers. I would have thought at the bottom there's nothing there, but at the top a tree has grown in a couple of decades. That's how I would have interpreted that. But
they've well, the bottom is the later one. So the tree's been cleared and they've put other stuff in. But I did think, they could have just shown the same street, but they actually went to the point of redressing the set.
So I guess there is a school of thought to say, okay, Ruby's on her own for a couple of decades. We find out she's been given the house of father by the parents. So does she just stay on her own for that entire time? And as you said, the birthday card, she's obviously run out of friends. Just because she's got this strange thing in the distance and she can't work out what it is. If anything, you would adapt to that and go, well, it's just there. I'll continue on with my life. I'll get a career. I'll get relationships and may even have a family, whatever else. The fact that they've just said, oh, no, she just stays on her own for that entire time, would that actually happen? Because Ruby, clearly, the character has a lot of personality.
but they didn't. They showed that she had 3 boyfriends over that time, and all of them kind of said, "Oh, we're getting a weird vibe, like there's someone else here or something." And the whole thing with her being distracted with the woman in the background the whole time actually put the boyfriends off. So she lost the relationships because of what was happening to her. They kind of said, one of them even said, "It's like you're distant. It's like what's happening now." And she was turning around and looking at the woman in the background.
Yeah, I didn't interpret that as being long-term relationships. I just thought they were just dates. That's how I
Well,
interpreted it.
one
And
of
then
them
you watch
talks
them. Yeah.
about one of them talks about, which is really unusual for Doctor Who, like being dysfunctional in the bedroom and stuff, which
No,
is more
okay.
than just a date. That's sort of a
Yeah.
long-term thing, I think. And the other
Yeah.
one
No,
was
that's fair enough.
talking about, is there someone else in the relationship? I've got. Are
Mm.
you seeing someone else? And I thought both of them must have been long-term, and it's sort of gone to pieces because of the situation with the old woman.
Yeah, so it would make sense that she's not 100% focused on this because she's got this thing there, and maybe that thing in this case, the old lady, is influencing her life and how other people view her. And I thought, okay, that's fine, but it was just interesting how they get around that particular problem. But look, it worked. As she spends the next X amount of decades on her own, and it is what it is. So and of course, she has problems with the family. And once again, we've got another scenario where the mother talks to the old lady and she runs off screaming and whatever else and chains the locks on the door and won't let Ruby back in.
Yeah,
Whatever. Yeah,
and
it's
again,
intense.
for I mean, this I highlighted because what a difference in tone and writing compared to this with Space Babies and the Devil's
Mm,
Chord, where you're getting now the mother saying, she's saying, "Hey, your mum," and she's like, "I'm not your mum," and your real mum didn't even want you, kind of thing. That's
mm.
a pretty adult concept for Doctor Who, which is usually, well, in the Disney series has been a lot more light and fluffy so far. So I did think this is a very weirdly toned season. Every story has been totally different. I don't know what viewers who aren't longtime fans are going to be thinking this series even is if they've tuned into all 4 episodes, because there's no consistency at all yet, really, is there?
No. So the parents, the mother and the grandmother, have they appeared this season besides the Christmas special? I just can't remember.
Yes, in the Space Babies, the doctor crashed into their kitchen and broke
Okay.
the
Oh, that was
roof.
there. Ah, yes, 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 yes. Yeah, it's interesting. I was trying just what you're talking. I'm thinking, what would the old lady have said to like really freak the mother out? And I can only think they're just confronted with their fears. I think somebody mentioned in the comment earlier something that really frightens them to the point, like when she, in fact, she locks Ruby out, changes the locks, and is inside the room, listening
Mm.
to her outside, and just won't let her in. And in the end, Ruby has to leave. That's pretty intense, actually, when you sit and think about it. You go, yeah, righto. It's like did not see that one coming at all. And I did like the idea that they're trying to rationalize how to deal with this. Okay, you get the phone, go up to the old lady. I'll have the call here. I can hear what's going on. They're trying to work out all these technical ways of getting around this particular problem. And of course, it doesn't work. And yeah, it's very, very cool.
Guys pointed out as well, that was the last scene where you saw Ruby was depressed and sad and it snowed. And then after that,
Yeah.
she couldn't make it snow anymore. So that's probably is significant to the future of the story, I think.
Yeah. And what I was going to point out is that Ruby now knows that she makes it snow. I thought
Yeah.
she might not have been aware of it. It snowed in all these episodes and she may be oblivious to it, but now she's actually consciously aware of it. Answer's got a question. Do you think it's meant to be magic or technology, as in any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic?
It's absolutely meant to be magic because it's reinforced a couple of times in this episode. I don't like it. I would rather have it, like you said, so advanced it seems like magic, but I think they are going to play the magic card as in it is really hocus pocus magic. And we'll talk about that because at first I didn't get the episode, but once I've watched it a couple of times, it is 100% it's magic what was happening in this episode.
Yeah, I kind of would believe that as well because of the whole thing of standing on the cotton thing, whatever it
Very,
was called, the shrine. That'll do at the
very
start. Yeah, yeah,
circle.
yeah.
Yeah.
There, fairy circle. Thank you very much. And this, of course, we got this sequence here, which led to the sort of like an interesting sort of way of fixing a particular problem, which he
Now,
stands on the pitch and the old lady talks to the prime minister and he does the bolt. So yeah, go for it, dude.
this I thought was really good. Again, I know there have been shows before where they use like the antagonist against other people to but this is a very personal thing because it's really only Ruby's um people can see her, but she really doesn't interact with other people unless Ruby gets them to. And on a story level, I thought this was amazing. They spelt out all through the episode it's the 73 yards, and she used that to use the actual demon, they were calling it a demon, against the Prime Minister. But on a subtext level, I really love how this story is about people who have demons and how to live with your demons and then actually change your demons so they're a positive rather than a negative. So I don't know if that was a deliberate thing, but I actually do love stories that are a bit deeper, where you've got the story and you can watch them as a little literal story. And then if you look at the subtext, you go, well, this is a bit deeper. It's about dealing, the beginning of the story, it's a bad thing, and then she learns to live with it, because you see that she raises a glass to it at Christmas and stuff. And then when she has a mission, she actually uses what has become a millstone around her neck as an actual positive and changes it around. So I actually thought this was a really great story in having a subtext that's greater than what you're actually watching as part of the script.
So the things I took out of it, I like the fact that they introduced what they call the perception filter, which I thought was a very, very ingenious idea of saying, well, it's there, people sort of see it but don't see it. Same with, like they say, with the TARDIS, because as we discussed yesterday, I caught up with Aaron yesterday, and I was saying the TARDIS appears in all these wacky places. Why doesn't anybody even notice it? But there's a perception filter. I thought I don't know if they've used that before in the entire series, in the history of the series, but that was very clever to say, well, you sort of see it, but you don't see it. And the same with the old lady, right? They see her, but they don't see her. Because she's standing, and why isn't someone walking up to her and going, "Hey, are you okay?" And of course, now we know why. That I thought was ingenious. Actually, that really sort of worked for me. And I go, that's at least explains something I can never ever figure out. And of course, for those who've only watched the episode once, you can explain just very quickly the significance of 73 yards. What's the deal with that?
So it is explained again. It's very brief explanation when she's sitting down talking to Unit. 73 yards or 72 yards or whatever, is how far a normal person with 20/20 vision can see clearly. And after that, it becomes all a bit blurred. And so 73 yards is just so you can see her, but without any definition. So I did get to the end of watching it the first time and go, what the hell? Why was it? Why was it 73 yards? I know that the creature was always 73 yards away, but it wasn't explained. But it actually was. It was so Ruby couldn't actually see who it was.
Which is funny because in like that's with human eyes, but of course with the camera, you do wonder if they're shooting in 8K, 4K, 28K, they have to sort of deliberately blur her out. It's like make sure that no one can just zoom right in and go, there's Ruby right there. So I thought that was actually quite important. So, but yeah, that whole sequence in the soccer field worked out quite well. And the idea was that, of course, one, standing on the pitch is one thing, but she's still in the presence of the Prime Minister of Wales. And of course, all the machine guns come out, and all it's like, oh, this is really, really groovy. What's going to happen? And I thought that was a really, really clever ending, because you can almost imagine in the writers' room they're going, all right, so how do we fix this? Okay, what's the solution? And as you said, they've used the old lady to impact the Prime Minister and to fix the problem. So it was definitely well thought out. So very, very good. But then that was the end of the goods. Guess what, fans? The goods are done. That's it. No more. And we're on to, believe it or not, the bads, Mr. Aaron.
Okay, as soon as I saw this come up, I was like, oh no, they're going to do it. And they did it. They did an episode of Doctor Who. This is only, I think, the second time in the history ever they didn't have the opening title sequence.
Yes, I did notice that. I thought I was actually watching the episode thinking, hang on, do we have the woo-woos? Because I don't usually hit the fast forward to the... I thought, well done for not doing it. I actually thought that was a good in my book. I really like that.
I thought that was the bad, because I like cliffhangers. The classic Doctor Who 4 or 5 episodes, and they don't really have them anymore unless it's a multi-episode story. So I like they have a little mini cliffhanger at the beginning of the episode. I guess that's my personal choice. When they didn't have the opening titles, that was a big thumbs down for me.
Yeah, so it's a thumbs up for me. I quite liked it, even though the opening titles are great. It says one less button I've got to push on Apple TV to fast forward it. So there you go. So the TARDIS appears up the top of the rocks, and everybody comes out and bloody, like the docky had a freaking orange duffel jacket. Where the hell can you even buy one of those? I mean, seriously.
Well, this is a big bad for me. The Doctor doesn't have, after 5 episodes, a noticeable persona, by what he's wearing. Every other Doctor cuts the
Hmm.
silhouette. It's a very important thing in movies. Indiana Jones, the silhouette is instant. They do that. This Doctor is the first Doctor that seems like every episode he's come out of Country Road wearing something different, and it's annoying to me, to the
Yeah.
fact you see his shoe there. They have obviously bought that shoe new, and he has never walked around in it before. It is absolutely brand new. And you've got, like, he's wearing, I don't know if they did this on purpose. It's very like a costume Sarah Jane wore in the Sontaran experiment. I don't know if that's, on purpose with the yellow and the red top. It could be, or it might be just a coincidence. And the Doctor and Ruby seem very coordinated together. Like, if they're a couple, some type couples do dress similar, very similar. But like, a lot of people, if they wear nearly the same thing, will go, "Oh, one of us has to change because this looks stupid," kind of thing. I don't think they look stupid, but I did think it's too. By not having a set costume, it's made it even worse. It looks like it's just off the rack, brand new clothes every episode.
Yeah, it's a good observation actually. Yeah, it's breaking a tradition where the docky is it's like a uniform effectively, and it's almost like if you're a bit of a skeptic, you'd be going, well, if they're still producing action figures and whatever else, the Eagle Moss, whatever's, oh, they can just do multiples now because it's the docky from this episode, the docky from that episode, the docky from this episode, and they don't relate to each other. So, with the exception of Devil's Cord, where he's wearing 60s attire, yeah, fair call. But you are right. It's like, where's the standardized look that the guy should have? That's a very good observation. The one thing I did like about this bit, and I did actually laugh, I don't normally laugh on screen, but this one I did laugh, is when he comes out, and because he doesn't know what year it is, and he's talking about the Mad John dude who had the pack, had launched all the nukes and whatever else. Then he realizes it's 2024, and he just said, "Oh, sorry, spoiler alert." I actually found that was very funny. I actually laughed when I heard that one, not realizing how relevant it was going to be later on. I just straight out of
Yeah.
nowhere said, "Oh yeah, spoiler alert." But I thought the idea that, and he stands on the thing, the fairy thing. They read the text, and he just vanishes. That I thought was very, very clever, as we discussed earlier. I wouldn't have classed that as a bad, but yes, I agree. His fashion sense is leaves a lot to be desired. Clearly, as we said, good old Shooty must have been busy. He says, "No, I can only be here for like 3 hours. Film me, and I'm gone." And he's off doing something else, and it's Ruby's episode.
Well, Dags and I did discuss this, and it isn't Shooty's fault. They hired him as the Doctor, and he was still filming Sex Education, his previous show. This was actually the first episode they filmed, and so they filmed a Doctor Light episode. But I actually kind of think if you've only got 8 episodes a season, you need the Doctor
Yeah.
in all of them. You can have an episode where the companion is the main character, but it would have been better, I think, if there was some more connection to the Doctor through the whole episode than just 5 minutes at the start, 2 minutes at the end.
Yeah, look, I got it. I liked it, but I can understand why it's not a good idea, and that's why we said at the start that's not a traditional Docky Who episode.
Hmm.
And I think there'll be some people who will say, "Oh, we loved it; it was great," but when they look upon it retrospectively, then they go, "Actually, it kind of isn't. It went against the grain of what the Doctor Who's meant to be, which is about the Docky and the companion, not about the companion." So
Hmm.
I do get it. Actually, I've got to admit with you, but. I like the idea that they took a bit of a risk and went with it. So if you're going, "Oh my god, I'm looking forward to seeing the docky," he's not in it for most of the show. And if you're not a Ruby fan, and to be fair, Ruby does shine in this, you'd be going, "Well, that's it. Fast forward for me. I'm out the door." So yeah, anyway, there you go.
Okay, you've got App Williams, the Prime Minister, and I've put him in the bad because we didn't actually get enough of him. I actually do think a bad politician makes a good villain in a TV series, especially Doctor Who. But they painted him in such broad strokes because he was hardly in the episode. I mean, he is bad because we're told he's bad. The Doctor says
Mm.
at the beginning of the episode, as you were saying, "Oh, spoilers, he was bad. He took England to the edge of nuclear war." And then when we actually catch up to the point where he's around, we see a tiny, tiny bit of his campaigning. It's not explained why he's so popular and why he wins in a landslide. We see that he has an inappropriate relationship. We don't know what because it's never really explained with a girl. And the girl says, he is a monster. So we're told
Mm.
something, not shown. And then she says, oh, yeah, he will launch. And again, we're told something, not shown. We never actually see him doing anything bad. And I think that is a mistake. And I think there's a reason why this happened, which we'll talk about. It does come up in the bads. I think it could have been a lot more fleshed out character. And to have someone who you're saying, he's the maniacal prime minister that tries to end the world. No, you didn't see any of that. We were just told it. And I do think you need to be shown it as well.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I looked at it from the perspective of thinking, oh, okay, so he's but the Prime Minister of Britain. Somehow or other, he just buys nuclear warheads from Pakistan because, like, yeah, it's like getting them from Woolworths, and he's got to push the button. And he's like, don't think it's as easy as that, but it works for the episode. Yeah.
The other thing, Dags, is Britain does have nuclear weapons. I don't know why if he was going to do that, I don't even know why he has to wait to get the ones from Pakistan.
Yeah, I know. If there was a thin point in the plot, it was that, right? The dude's responsible for launching a nuclear war, blah, 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 blah. And as you said, we haven't really seen him do anything bad. It's a bit of a hard swallow. And it's very funny because, as we said like a couple of episodes ago with Space Babies and Devil's Cord, whatever, if the whole series is geared towards younger people, you can almost imagine younger people watching this going, okay, Ruby's in trouble. Yeah. What's the deal with this dude? And because it's covered off so quickly, he gets nuclear warheads and blows up the world. I reckon that's just going to go straight over the head of any young person who's watching it. So, yes, I thought that was a bit of a strain on the plot. Really, I find that a little hard to believe. But anyway.
Well, the other thing is maybe they are aiming at the Disney audience where it is just not subtle. It is sort of just very simplistic, more for kids.
Yeah, exactly right. So anyway, that's the way it was. He was the bad guy and ended up being defeated by another crazy woman, as it were, who didn't say anything. So yeah, but sticking with the bads.
Well, you mentioned it a bit before, but I'm getting feedback. So what I'll do, I'll try putting headphones on just in case that works.
Yeah, thanks if you wouldn't mind. So yeah, I'm surprised by that. Okay. Yeah.
So all right. I don't know why it just started then.
That's all right. Because we're in the zone, mate. We're in the zone, the Docky Who zone. I keep saying this.
I don't.
Wales, guys, Wales. I don't get it, Guy. You've mentioned that a couple of times. Wales is Wales, having a whale of a time with the whales. What can I say? So, very, very good. And Ads mentioned way back here with the intro. Yeah, it's just like James Bond, the gun barrel. It's not Docky Who without the music opening. But I thought in this particular episode, it didn't really need it. It kind of worked without it. But I did notice it after a while. Docky Who fans might be a bit more upset about it, as Aaron was. So there you go. I got Wales, not England. Oh, yeah, sorry, I don't know. He came from Wales, but he was the Prime Minister of Britain. It's actually written on the things on the soccer field. So
yeah,
but yeah, I might be getting half that wrong because I'm not from that part of the world. So my mistake, my bad. Yeah. You back? You with me?
Yeah. Is there any feedback now? I'll keep going, and we'll see how we go.
Go.
So I don't know about the whole walking on the grass thing because, yes, you've got the pitch keeper. It's not the Secret Service who's saying don't walk on the grass. It's the person who looks after the grass. And there's a big deal about not walking on the grass. I can understand if they want to keep the grass in good condition. I can understand if the Prime Minister's there, they're making sure that nothing happens to him. But she's part of his team and she walks out and you get people pulling semi-automatic weapons on her saying, we're going to drop you if you don't stop.
Well, the thing is that it could be working on the view of something we haven't seen, whereby the Prime Minister, the dude, has had death threats before because he's a bit of a warmonger. We just haven't seen it or heard of it. And maybe they've actually figured out and said, well, if somebody was going to try and knock him off, they'd try and get into his staff, and it's the staff who rebel against him. And because she's clearly not following the instructions of anybody, and she brings out the phone, they just see it as a threat because they don't really know what's going to happen. Now, I agree. Had she been wearing high-heel shoes and walked on the grass and go, you can imagine like going completely off the deep end. But yeah, you are right. It's a little bit extreme. But at least they said at the start, don't walk on the grass. She walks on the grass and they all get a bit upset. So I kind of got it. And I did like the fact that only her with the phone in the middle of nowhere, they're pulling out the machine guns. I thought, this could be very, very interesting. So, yeah, sorry, dude.
They did say, what does it matter if we walk on the grass because there's going to be 10,000 people here in the week anyway, kind of thing. So I did think there was going to be a reveal if there was something under the oval or something more important. It just didn't go there. So it was something I pointed out as a bad for me anyway.
Fair enough. Fully order unusual behaviour would trigger the Secret Service. I totally agree. If just someone out of line, bending the rules, and not listening to anybody, not obeying what they're being told, causes like red flags go off. The Prime Minister's here. He can't be good. Talk about magic. Is that right? As we were discussing earlier, old son.
We are. So the explanation the story was that it was magic, and this is because the Doctor disappeared because of breaking the circle and Ruby reading, and then the whole thing of Ruby trying to contact herself is to try to stop the Doctor from doing that. And so the explanation of the Doctor disappearing and this whole big loop is Ruby trying to stop this magic from happening. It is reinforced in the episode because you have Kate Stewart saying, well, UNIT is set up to look after extraterrestrial menace, but more recently it's been supernatural stuff. It's been going that way. And Disney is the Magic Kingdom.
I hadn't thought of that. Yes, exactly right. So, I mean, magic is easier to work with because you don't have to explain it. Technology needs to have a reason as to why it works. So, very, very clever. And you are right. You got this lady here who kind of like is like the Prime Minister's BO fluff, if you will, and it didn't end out well. And that was. I reckon they may have filmed it all and just had to cut it all out for timing. Which, in retrospect, you could probably say, you know what, if you cut some stuff out of the pub scene, because I think it was pointed out it was probably a bit on the long side, and get to this stuff where it's actually more integral to the character of the Prime Minister and his motives, especially with this woman, that may have actually worked better. But anyway, sorry, dude.
Well,
Go for it.
the thing is, I put this in as a bad because it was obviously some type of abuse was happening, and they didn't really explain it. I don't know if you want to go down that path in Doctor Who, which is a family show, but the thing that I thought was really bad, Ruby introduced them, and Ruby knew what was going on, and then she says to her, I'm sorry I didn't do anything earlier, but I had to be confirmed that he was really bad. So it actually seems that the Doctor's companion knew an abusive relationship was going on and didn't do anything about it. And I thought that's actually a bad thing for her character.
Yeah, that will have gone right over the heads of the youngsters, but people like you have picked it up, and that is a very interesting observation. This part that came up, I like this part. You're going to list it as a bad. Even as a non-Docu Who dude, I got the links and I go, oh, this is actually kind of groovy. It's when the whole UNIT thing makes an appearance, and I don't know, the Lethbridge Stewart lady, I don't know who she is, who she's related to, the Brigadier, but I thought, oh, and I finally got to learn what UNIT was, and then I forgot about it straight away. But anyway.
Well, I've put these bads up because when you set up a universe, if the rules aren't the same as our universe, that's fine, and you have to show it. But then you have to stick to those rules. And we are shown at the start of the episode that the woman's message or whatever she's saying doesn't come through phones. It just comes out as blank. And then when UNIT goes to do it, it actually does go through their system.
Okay.
And the other thing, I've taken pictures of the guys up on the guns because they wouldn't have had any idea of what the woman was actually saying. So when UNIT all run off, they would have actually maybe taken a pot shot or done something about it. And the other thing, go ahead.
I can only assume that. Don't go say going ahead, then tell me they cut me off. I can only assume we went through all the whole mic system because we're all ear-pieced up. And that's probably intentional from the old lady's point of view to do that. So you'd be right. It is bending the rules a little bit because the guys up the top, they can't hear it, obviously, from way down there. But that's obviously what's happened. It's gone through the system for whatever reason. Okay, continue on.
Well, UNIT also say, we've got all these really good cameras and stuff, but even when we take photos, they don't come out when they're 73 yards away. But UNIT can actually walk up to her face and take a photo because they don't have that 73-yard restriction, which I don't think was really answered. And the other thing was, up until that point, all through the episode, whatever the old woman says is something against Ruby, which makes people run away from her. When she talks to the Prime Minister, he runs away, But why would he resign? He's just running away from Ruby. It's not like everyone else resigned their job and then like disappeared. Like you
Yeah, but you
said,
don't
it
know
was
that.
enough to keep. Well,
Yeah, but you don't
well, it
know
was
that.
enough to
Yeah,
keep them away from Ruby. Well, I
yeah.
don't know. That's true, but I did think the way they set it up was no one wanted to be around Ruby, but they continued the rest of their life because her mum went home. She changed the locks and everything.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now because you got me thinking about it. Maybe they get images in their head of something really, really bad that either they've done or they're going to do or whatever else, and that changes their perspective. And that's the reason why the Prime Minister guy resigned straight away. I don't know. I mean, it's clearly not meant to be analysed to that nth degree. What I think was funny is you made a reference to the fact they could walk up to her and take a photograph like standing right there. Clearly, that in the writers' room, they probably thought of that. You know what? We can't cover every angle. Someone's going to pick holes in it. Someone and you have, and it makes sense. It's like, don't take photographs from 4 kilometers away. Just walk up to her, go click and walk back. Don't talk to her. You are right. That would probably work. What would be funny if they did that, and even at like 2 feet away, it still comes out blurry. But I like the idea that they at least covered that off. They said, "Oh, we've tried this, doesn't work. Tried that, doesn't work. Tried this." So at face value, they've at least put some effort into thinking, well, all these things that the average audience person would say, well, have they done this? Oh, they have done that. It didn't work. What about this? Oh, they've tried that and that didn't work. But I did like the fact that the woman from Unit did actually appear with all their dudes and their guns and whatever. And you're thinking, what's going to happen here? And of course, what you don't expect is they all just turn tail and bail. So I actually quite liked it. I thought it was quite good, but you can pick holes in it. I won't deny that. So yeah.
Well, that was actually a beautifully filmed scene. They could have been at any restaurant or cafe, but it was one with all these amazing umbrellas, which I thought they've really gone to town on trying to make this episode look good. So I did think it was good. I am just picking holes in stuff.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Hang on. It's called the Russell T Davies morals, I guess, because regarding the companion and the abuse and whatever else. So, yeah, they scooted over it. If it was a longer episode, they may have touched on it a bit more. But yeah, clearly something was going on there. The dude is a bad dude, but we didn't actually, as you said, get to see it. I like this one. The old woman's using a UFO filter, make every photo come out fuzzy and blurry. No one ever gets to film a UFO with perfect 4K imagery. It's always, oh my God, handy cam, blurry shit all the time. Absolutely love it. And of course, we've got the 40 years later Bizzo. Yes, don't worry about trying to age the actress, just replace her with another one.
Well, they could have done that through the different eras, but I think it was better staying with Millie Gibson. I did think she carried the episode amazingly well. There were some
Yep.
actresses that probably couldn't have done that, but she did it effortlessly. What I didn't like though, I did think that the mission that she had, she says, I know my mission, I'm going to save the world. And she used the future version of herself to do that. I do think after that happened was then she should have gone back and it was revealed that it was her. And that would make sense because if she couldn't see a version of herself that looks like Millie Gibson, the actress, that would make a reason why it was blurred. But she probably wouldn't even recognize the old woman as herself if she could see her because there's such a difference, she wouldn't recognize it. So I don't think they should have done the 40 years later thing. I think when that was fulfilled, that should have actually been her mission. And that's when she should have appeared behind the tree from the opposite side. And that's the loop. You know, when she fixed stuff, then she went back. So that 40 years stuff that went for another 10 minutes, that could have been used for developing the character and showing what was going on behind the scenes of the Prime Minister. So it was good. I mean, when she was turning up in the hospital, that was actually really scary stuff. If I was a kid, that would be pretty scary because they didn't show the face and it was this woman with white hair. I was imagining the witch from, Evil Dead kind of thing, a deadite looking kind of person. So I did think it was really well done. I just think 40 years later, it's like, well, that says there's 40 years of stuff that happened that just wasn't important.
Um, I like the idea that the TARDIS has just sat there for 40 years, which means the Docky himself is just nowhere, right? Just gone. The thing is, though, she says her mission is to stop the Prime Minister from launching all the nukes, and she does that. But that's not what the problem is. The problem is that they interrupted the fairy thing at the start, and until she dies at the end, she can then be reborn, reincarnated, whatever to when she comes out. 40 years goes back and then comes out of the TARDIS. I kind of got that at the end. Okay, I understood that. So it's not like, okay, well, I've stopped the Prime Minister launching the nukes, roll credits, everybody's happy. They just come out of the TARDIS again. Clearly, that wasn't it, and it had to keep going. So I thought that worked quite well, and I understood where they were going with it. And it just means that from her perspective, she's got to ride, and it's hard to imagine having to ride out all these decades waiting for the day that you drop off the perch. It's a little bit like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where Bowman dies at the end and gets reborn as the space child and all sort of thing. Maybe it's been inspired by that. And of course, in another time and place, when they both walk out of the TARDIS again the second time around, they could just repeat everything, stand on the ferry thing, the old lady appears, and the whole process is in a loop. But at least the second time around, they're able to fix it and resolve it. So I kind of got it. I thought it sort of worked out quite well. So, but yeah, it was hard for them to say, how do we portray the 40 years? She's getting older, and then all of a sudden she's so old, we can't even recognize her as being the same person because it's a completely different actress. That probably doesn't really wash. It's a bit of a hard sell. If you didn't know that that was meant to be Ruby, the old lady, you wouldn't have picked it until they said, oh, that's Ruby. So that's how I saw it anyway. Hey, unbelievable. Guess what, fans? That's the end of the bad. Woo, done. But we're not going back to the good because now it's the ugly.
Now, there's something here that I think is going to happen. I don't 100% know. But in the past, Russell T Davies has signalled spin-off shows by making mentions of them in Doctor Who. So Torchwood was mentioned in the first series of Doctor Who. And then when the second series happened, the spin-off Torchwood happened. Now, I heard, must be nearly a year ago now, that the first spin-off series from Disney is going to be called The War Between the Sea and the Land. And then with this episode, they actually said that title twice, once at the beginning of the episode and once at the end. And I think they are doing a foreshadowing like they did with Torchwood, where Torchwood was the answer to a question on a quiz, and then it became the name of the spin-off series. The Doctor mentions it twice, which is quite an unusual thing for him to say twice in an episode, The War Between the Sea and the Land. And I've heard that is going to be a spin-off series with the Sea Devils and the Silurians, and not the Doctor, but probably Unit in it.
Yeah, they did make a big point about the sea and the water. A couple of quick ones. Did Millie film this before the Christmas special? I think the Christmas special was filmed after this series filmed. Any ideas?
Yeah, it was, because Shooty was in the Christmas special and he wasn't in this because he was just finishing off Sex Ed. So this must have been, I don't know if Shooty must have filmed the scenes, I guess, unless they came back and did them later. But as far as I know, this was the first thing they filmed for this era of the series.
Okay. Was it an alternative reality? I don't think so. It was just an interesting time loop. But of course, whenever you jump back forward, you jump back in time. What happens to the rest of the universe, especially with the Time Lord scenario? And I guess they'll put that in the too hard basket. And I like this. Yeah, the old lady asked about who Ruby putting flowers in the TARDIS. I do like the fact that all this moss is growing over the TARDIS, just been left there, and no one's touched it. No one's done anything with it. I thought that was actually quite good. Speaking of the TARDIS, here it is.
The ugly. This is the first time this has ever happened in Doctor Who, where Ruby asks if the Doctor's having a pee behind the TARDIS. So this is one of those lifelong questions that fans have wondered. Time Lords do take a leak, and Ruby must know about it too. So they actually, I did think, well, that's unusual. When she couldn't find him, the first thing she thought that was he was behind the TARDIS having a pee.
Well, there you go. How do I respond to that? I just won't. I'm going to move on. But there you go. That's because there are no snakes in England, but you can always time for snakes here. What can I say there? I don't know what I'm saying. And I do like, and you're about to bring this one up. When in doubt, if you want to make someone look older or look different, just shove on the old spectacles, and they look like a completely different person.
Well, it's not terrible because it is, as you said, an age-old cinematic trick. No one is being fooled by Clark Kent when he's wearing glasses. It's just a bit of a joke, really. No one is being fooled that Prince Adam and He-Man are two different people. And no one is being fooled that that's a 40-year-old just because she's wearing glasses. I did think that was a bit weak. But, okay, it's just picking holes in it. I didn't put it in a bad. I just thought it was a bit funny. I had to laugh when she got to 40. I did think it was funny because when App Williams came up to her, I thought he was going to proposition her. And I think they've done this thing where they're like, well, she's 40, so she's not as hot as the pretty young thing anymore. So he went up and asked her who the other girl was, which I had to have a bit of a chuckle about, because I was like, well, she's not like too bad herself.
Yeah, well, she's obviously looked after herself in that period of time. And I did, as I mentioned earlier, I do like the fact they play with her hair in terms of the length, which is quite good. But yeah, they obviously thought, oh, how are we going to make her look older? And the makeup a little bit, but I don't know. It's hard to say. You'd almost need to have a side-by-side comparison, but it is a TV show and a TV budget. Things are going through fast. Yeah, it is what it is. And you are right. Stick the 1980s sunglasses on her, and people are just going to wear it and go with it. So, yeah. So you weren't happy with the phone bit in the pub, mate?
No, it's not the phone bit at all. And I did think the pub was good. I put it in the good section, but it's kind of one of those things. I think Ad said it dragged on a bit, because these characters didn't come back. Why would you concentrate on them for so much? I mean, they gave all of those characters more character development than they gave the main antagonist in the show, as in the Prime Minister. And if they had just had her going to the pub and sort of maybe having one of the people run away because of the woman and leave, they could have put more character development into the people that are going to be through the episode. There's another thing I want to bring up here. It'll get us cancelled, but I'm going to go there anyway. Russell T Davies is a gay man, and he is very into gay rights. Every single series he's done after Doctor Who and before he came back to Doctor Who have been about gay rights. And they put a joke in this episode where they talk about the fairy ring, and the girl goes, well, ask him about the fairy ring, because he's obviously being portrayed as a gay person. Could that joke have been put in there if it was Stephen Moffat's episode and he's a straight man? Or is it another one of these things, well, we can make jokes about ourselves, but no one else can make jokes about it? I do think if you have convictions to your cause and you want to, be representing something in a certain way, doesn't it then go and undermine it by making jokes that you would probably criticize other people about? You can take it in a good or a bad way. Maybe he is saying, well, look, I'm not as serious as everyone thinks, and I can make jokes about sexuality and it's fine. And that's really good. But I do wonder, if this wasn't a Russell T Davies episode and it was someone else who made that joke, everyone would be, oh, horror, you can't do that in an episode. So I didn't put it in the bad and I didn't put it in the good, but I did want to bring it up because it's obviously an issue for some people.
Well, Shane agrees with you, and I think that's a very valid comment. So yeah, we'll see where it all goes from there. I like this one from Shane. Apparently, Millie had to do walking lessons to learn how to 40-year-olds walk. Well, believe it or not, they walk exactly the same as 20-year-olds. Like absolutely no different if you're an 80-year-old, but 40 and 20 or whatever, however old she's meant to be, there's no difference, kids. I can assure you of that, as any 40-year-old or 40-year-old plus will tell you. Now, this one, of course, this has been brought up before. Even I mentioned it, of course. It was the old lady who's appearing in every episode, Russell T Davies' next-door neighbour, whoever she happens to be. What do you reckon?
So, yeah, we've seen this actress in 6 episodes now playing different characters. This is the first time one of the series leads has actually twigged, though, and said, like, haven't I met you before? And this episode has actually changed the nature on what I was thinking about this woman, because I thought she was going to be some multi-dimensional being or some godlike person or something more pivotal. But her reaction going, I don't think so, and just not registering and walking off, maybe it's not going to be as important as everyone thought. She seemed very, benign, not something that was going to hurt Ruby or try and affect the way the story went. It just seemed like a random person. It could have been any actress. There was nothing that she did that it needed to be that actress again. So I'm really interested and intrigued as to seeing how this story arc is going to be wrapped up.
Yeah, that was very clever that they did that, actually, which I thought worked out well. Now, when the old lady, the one we just saw, walked up to the old Ruby, what did you think was going to happen? Did you think it was just going to massive big blood splurt like straight out of Akira or whatever? Or What did you think? Was you going to go complete axe murder on her, or what did you think was going to happen? Because clearly something was going to happen.
I thought she was going to say something that had a double meaning, or she knowingly knew stuff about Ruby or something like that that would make Ruby think but not be suspicious enough that it blows who she is. Like maybe say something about orphans, or maybe say something about the snow, because I don't know if you noticed it was snowing again at that
Yes, I
point.
did notice that.
And if she'd said something like, "It's unusual, it's snowing, but not around you, Ruby," and Ruby was like, "What?" And then it just moves on. But there was no extra knowing. It was just a different character that she was playing. So I am intrigued how they're going to explain this actress being in all. I would think it was funny, Dags, at the end Russell T Davies gives an interview and go, "Oh, she was my next door neighbor."
Yeah. She just needed something better to do, and I just said, "Here, come to work with me. I'll put you in the show," and away we go. So there you go. She's a future past companion. That's future past is confusing. Who could actually be Ruby herself? Yeah, maybe. And waited for here's a big word, Blinovich limitation effect. That's a very big word for tonight there, Mr. Shane. So there you go. How good is that?
It's the Blinovich limitation effect, and it's been in a couple of episodes of Doctor Who where it's sort of a paradox. It's a word for a paradox.
Now you've put this one in an ugly. I like this bit is when the unit lady walked up, the Lethbridge Stewart woman, and I thought, oh, this isn't too bad, but it didn't work for you, old son.
Because we've spoke about this before. This is a soft reboot thing where we've had Unit in the specials, but because now this is a Disney Plus helm show, she sits down and for the benefit of the audience says, "I'm from Unit. Unit is an organization that's the United Intelligence Task Force. We fight aliens and extraterrestrials, and at the moment we're fighting more supernatural stuff," which is purely there as like exposition for the new audience. And I've had that before. I don't like how they're just presuming we need to know everything over and over again.
See, I disagree with you because Ruby doesn't know that, right? And you've got this strange woman who turns up, and if she didn't say anything about who she was, right, you'd be thinking, well, the audience as you would know. But Ruby's going, well, who the hell are you? And it's like, why are you got all these guns and shit out here and all these cameras and whatever? What's the deal with that? And I actually thought this is a justified explanation as to saying who she is and where they're from and what they're doing. And I had no problem with it because I thought, well, you would explain it to the character. It was different for the when Ruby first met the Docky and she's inside the TARDIS and he goes, "I'm the Doctor." He's like, "Hang on, you've covered this part off already." And some of that was probably a bit unnecessary. Whereas in this case, I actually thought she needed to be told, which was, by the same token, good exposition for the rest of us, including me, to say, well, who she is. So it kind of worked. I felt I had no problem with it.
Well, that is why I didn't put it in the bad. And the ugly isn't particularly ugly meaning bad. Ugly means more, let's have a discussion about this rather than it being bad, you know.
But I thought, Ruby's met the woman from Lethbridge Stewart. I thought that alone was awesome. Even I know who that guy was. Look, it's all fixed now. It's great. They're going to take the woman out, put her in a van, black bag over the head. See you later. Problem solved. And of course, it doesn't solve the problem at all. That I thought was actually very, very good. Sticking with the uglies, we've gotten this bit.
Okay, this is just something that might or might not happen. When Kate Stewart was showing the picture, you can see Kate's fingernail on her thumb is red. One of the big mysteries in the Christmas special is who picked up the Master's gold tooth. You saw it dropped out of the toy maker's mouth when he was defeated, and then as everything was winding up, you saw someone with red fingernails pick up the Master's tooth. And that could be a big hint as to who has the Master's tooth. Dags, what do you think about that?
That is straight out of Flash Gordon from the movie, isn't it? So who picks up Ming's ring at the end of Flash Gordon? What do I think about it? Oh, I don't know, bloody idea, dude. So there you go. As I said, in all the Doctor Who episodes, they have never contained Oscar-winning scripts and stories. I have to say, over the last two episodes have been solid, especially after the first two. Oh, well, there you go. So I don't know, dude. Who picked up the ring? I looked at that picture and go, what the hell am I looking at? So, but it all worked out. And yes, here we are. We're still going.
And this is just another quick one at the end. There was a couple of things here, and in a production of a show or something, they only put stuff in because it causes budget. If you put stuff in, if it's going to mean something. When Ruby was looking out of her window, there was a big holographic thing in the sky that almost looked like the scan of her body, when the doctor looked at it in the TARDIS, and also what the ambulances were scanning her. Is Ruby unconscious? Is all this happening in her head? And that's why that's there. I don't know. I don't know why they put it there. But there must be a reason why they put it there, because to make a graphic and put it floating in the sky, they have to have a reason for doing that.
That is a very good point. So based on that rationale, she could still be in the hospital as the old lady who hasn't died, or she's been in the hospital for the past 40 years and they've just been playing with the brain. That's an interesting observation. I personally think you've read too much into it, but by the same token, that you could really go a lot of places with that. So, yeah, fair enough.
She's in recall having an embolism.
Wait till she shoves the thing up her nose to try and get the sensor out.
The other thing on that picture, again, which could mean something or could mean nothing, you see Ruby's house, and I've enlarged it. On the wall, there's all these children's paintings, and one of the paintings looks like Rose's Dalek, the round one down the bottom, Rose's Dalek toy that she made in the Christmas specials. So I do wonder if maybe that's a hint that the Daleks are behind this, or the Daleks are coming back. Even though they've sworn black and blue, the Daleks are not in this in this series. I do wonder, like, they had to get people to draw those pictures and put them up. Maybe there is an Easter egg in there that will come up later in the series.
You could do some really interesting sort of what if links, like when Ruby was nearly killed in, I've forgotten last week's episode, and she had the thing in the ambulance or whatever, and it's just all this is inside her head. I don't know. I like the theory. I really, really do. Whether it would work for the narrative at the end of the season, and she wakes up and it was all a dream, straight out of the Colbys or whatever it was. Probably won't wash. It was Dallas, wasn't it? One of those shows where a whole season was a dream. Probably won't wash, but I like the thinking. I really do. And because there's clearly all these links are being chucked in, the whole thing with the snowing and the fact that the old woman keeps reappearing. Yeah, I do like it. So, he thinks you're reaching.
Yes.
But if it turns out that Aaron's right, you'll be eating your hat there, Mr. Adzi. So there you go.
Hey,
and as we mentioned,
I'm the one with the hat.
Yeah, exactly right. And as we mentioned at the start, it was definitely a Twilight Zone episode, not a Doctor Who episode by a long shot. Very, very uncharacteristic for this sort of series.
Well,
a Doctor Who show with no Doctor.
The picture on the far right there is actually Paramount's advertising for the Twilight Zone. The one I made up is in the middle would work for a Twilight Zone episode, I think. And then there's the one above it where I've mixed both of them together. It was a brilliant episode. I really loved this episode. What did you think of it, Dags?
No, I really enjoyed it, actually. It really worked for me. So we're almost at the end of our slides. Shane, I can't put your message up because you used a swear word. You're calling me by a different D name. But you are right. I haven't watched enough Doctor Who, and that's pretty damn evident. And you just got this.
Now, this is really interesting. This was just an Easter egg in the series. When Ruby was ordering at the pub, that was the QR code for ordering from a restaurant, which you can do these days. If you scan that code, it takes you to the Doctor Who website. So anyone who was sad enough to pause it, get their phone out and scan it, there was an Easter egg. It took you to the BBC website for Doctor Who.
I love it. Absolutely fantastic. Well, that's the end. Believe it or not, that's the end of the ugly. So we're going to go around to the Rotten Time Lords. Mr. Aaron, give us a score on whether has this been Crinoid approved, as you would often say. What's the score for this particular episode, Mr. Aaron?
I'm well, with our scoring, the lower it is, the better, and I'm giving it only a 1, which is about an 8 out of 10. Like, the best is 0 because not rotten at all, but this is pretty damn fresh. I thought this was a good episode. If every episode in the season was as good as this, I would be very happy.
So that means, believe it or not, it is Crinoid fresh. Is that right?
It has been, it is our first episode that has been certified Crinoid fresh on our Rotten Time Lord scale. So I hope you enjoyed that one as well, Dags. I thought that was a ripper.
Yeah, it's come a long way and done really, really well for itself. As I said to you, whether people will argue it was a good Twilight Zone episode, but not a very good Doctor Who episode, I don't know. Ruby shone through it. It was, I thought it was great. And I've got no problem if the docky in it isn't in it that often. But it had good suspense, and I didn't really know where it was going to go. And yeah, I had a lot of things going for it. I really, really enjoyed it. And Greg is happy. It's crinoid approved. Absolutely fantastic. I think a lot of fans are going to say this is absolutely awesome. It's really on an upward trajectory now, which makes space babies even like more unnecessary when you sit and think about it. So
I've just worked out. I've just worked out what she was saying. We're gonna play you space babies on loop for the rest of your life.
absolutely fantastic. No, it was really, really good, really enjoyable. We'll have to see where it all goes from here. Oh my goodness, we've just actually run over time. We actually said there was going to be a lot to cover off with this, and we probably missed some bits. And I know I've missed a few comments along the way, but hopefully everybody sort of enjoyed it. Before we wrap up for the night, don't forget, if you haven't done so already, check out the Sci-Fi Zone socials and YouTube and whatever else. There's new episodes of stuff coming out tomorrow. And of course, for all your 15th Doctor merchandise in him in his millions of different costumes, you got to go to your shop because these things don't yet exist, Mr. Aaron, but they soon will, do you think?
We've had nothing so far, probably more towards the end of the year. But at the moment, I'm processing a huge hot toy collection. Come and get your toys. They're hot at the moment.
Very, very, very good. Oh, Shane said if I keep using docky, he's going to use the swear word. Guess what? I'm not the only one using the word docky, Mr. Shane, so you're just going to have to deal with it, son. Very, very cool. And if your messages don't appear on screen, at least you'll know why. And with that in mind, we're going to buzzle off. We're going to see you, at least you guys, on again on Thursday with a bit of luck where we talk about sci-fi stuff. But otherwise, we'll be back next week. For now, we're into the second half of the season. Well, so there's only 8 episodes of the season, isn't there, for this particular series? Is that right?
There is, yeah. So it seems very, very short. I can't believe, Dags, that you've spoken for more than an hour on Doctor Who.
Oh, no, I'm going to have to go wash my mouth out with soap or something like that. Maybe I need to see that old lady to just make you suck and run off screaming into the woods. Anyway, guys, party hard, rock on. We'll see you next Tuesday. We'll be back on Tuesday next week for a bit more Docky Who talk. Okay, take care. All the best, and we'll see you later. Okay.
Until next week, we will have to Separatorus.
What he said. Okay, ta-da, bye-bye.
Bye.